Welcome to this Halloween edition of Around Kansas. I'm Deb Goodrich.
And I'm your vintage jewelry princess, Michelle Martin.
I love the hat, so tell us all about it.
Well, Deb, I made a little trip to my local hobby store. And when they say everything Halloween is 75% off, you just have to
Woohoo!
look. So, in honor of Halloween and the fact that we have a show that falls during the week of Halloween, I thought I need to dress up. So, the easiest thing is to put on some wonderful headgear. I believe this is supposed to be an El Dia de los Muertos corona, the flower
Uh-huh.
crown.
Uh-huh.
But I decided it can do double duty. If I blingify it with some vintage jewelry, then I'm the vintage jewelry princess.
Love it. I love it.
And notice for all my folks in Kansas, look right there. Look at those ruby
Ruby
slippers.
red slippers.
Click those heels. There's no place
Awesome.
like home.
Awesome. I just love it. Well, I've got my vintage jewelry on, but I don't have a tiara and I couldn't find my witch's hat. So um probably at the cleaners or something. I've got two or three really cool ones and I just did not have time to dig them out. So
And
maybe
is the broom out in the garage?
the
Is the
broom is
broom
a little
parked in the garage?
handier. It's a little handier
Ah.
than that. It's right
Mhm.
by the door just in case I need to hop on and go somewhere real quick. So
And take a quick ride.
take a quick ride. That's right.
Mhm.
And I love this oh my goodness, I've got Halloween backwards on here, don't I? Um what a dillweed. Um I just liked positioning it better this way, but yeah, I see that the folks, if you hold a mirror up to your TV, Halloween will be just right. So, yeah, this could be like a science experiment too. But I love the witch in this one, and my head is covering this black cat that she's uh, giving orders to, I think, or maybe taking orders from the black cat. I'm not sure, but I
It's a
love
cat.
the
She's
vintage.
taking orders.
I love these vintage Halloween cards. I just love those, all those cool images. And I love going through those. We go to antique stores, and I love going through those. And especially when you start looking through those really old ones, man, there are some freaky things in there. The Easter
Mhm.
ones are the freakiest. They are, I don't know what's up with people at Easter, but they are by far the freakiest. Even freakier than Halloween. But there's some really freaky Halloween ones. It's like Tim Burton's childhood or something in some of these cards. Did you see there's going to be a sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Jack and Sally and their kids. Is that cool or what?
That's wonderful.
I
Folks,
know.
if you've not watched The Nightmare Before Christmas, I know Tim Burton can be an acquired taste, but what
Oh,
he has such vision, but he has such talent, and it's
oh, it's
incredible.
brilliant.
I love The Nightmare Before
I
Christmas.
do too. It's brilliant.
Um, actually, in honor of Halloween, I start watching my Universal Universal Studios classic monster movies. I start watching those in the beginning of October. As a matter of fact, our good friend Monty McCord, we'll give a shout out to Monty because Monty McCord also likes the classic Hollywood monster films, and we had an interesting discussion online about actually the acting talents of Bela Lugosi and
Gosh.
how he is the Dracula, but
Oh
he did some
yes.
other fantastic films, and how he really became synonymous with the character, and nobody else really measures up to that. So that I've been watching those. I do have to confess, I did watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown last night.
How can you not? That's priceless. I got a Buck Taylor story to tell you. Buck Taylor grew up in Hollywood, knowing everybody. His dad was Dub Taylor, the character actor. So they were having some kind of, I don't know, golf tournament party or something. And Buck went along with his dad, and there standing before him was Glenn Strange. who played at the time Frankenstein. And there were all these guys around, but all he could think is, "Oh my God, I'm standing here eye to eye." Well, Buck was a little guy then, but looking
Mhm.
up at Frankenstein. And he said, and then later I would share a dressing room with him when they were both on Gunsmoke. Is that a
Wow.
great story of America or what? I just love that story.
Yeah. I mean, only in America. As a
Only
matter
in
of fact,
America. Only
yeah.
in America.
Deb, it's interesting. Even though I love Kansas history and American Western history because it's my life, it's what I study, it's what I do. I confess I'm a closet Tudor England freak. I really love the history of Tudor England. And of all the things, there is a connection, folks, between Tudor England and the way they used to celebrate Christmas and Halloween. Uh, in Tudor England, because England was a Catholic country, they had those first 24 days of December. You were fasting and whatnot. And then, of course, with Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, actually started the true 12 days of Christmas. And one of the things that took place during that time period was mumming. And this is where your neighbors and your friends would dress up in very grotesque, very ghoulish masks and outfits and attire. And they would go door to door. And when they knocked on your door and you answered, if you said, "Who are you?" they would say, "Mmm." And all they could do was say, "Mum." And it was mumming. And so they got this perverse thrill out of coming to your house. You would have to invite them in. You would then, they would challenge you to a game of dice, and they would ask you to put some money in the game. And when they would throw the dice, they would roll, and then they would have to get the same numbers to roll again. Otherwise, they would lose. And invariably, they always got the same numbers. Well, the dice were weighted, of course, but it was a way to go ahead and prank people and get their money and get refreshment from their friends and go door to door. And it is believed that in England, when mumming was outlawed, it morphed into trick or treaters at Halloween.
Isn't that cool? I wonder if that's the origin of the Mummers Parade in Philadelphia. Every New Year's Day they have the big Mummers Parade, which is
Hmm.
one of the most incredible, bizarre things I have ever seen in my life. I don't even know how to
And
describe it.
we do know it is the mumming is the origin of mum's the word.
Is it really?
Hmm.
That's cool.
So if you want to learn a little more about that and how it how it goes from Tudor English Christmas to potentially Halloween. If you watch the 12 Days of Tudor Christmas with Dr. Lucy Worsley, who is my favorite TV Brit historian, she actually shares that. So it's very fascinating. And but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. They take something from a religious holiday, it gets twisted and used and becomes something else. And really, Halloween is really it has Celtic roots. It's part
It
of
has
Celtic
Celtic
religious
roots.
tradition.
And
And so,
my token Scottish friend, Ian Hall, talks about, the tradition of carving turnips in Scotland before they came to the New World and discovered pumpkins. And thank God they got pumpkins. Um, Carving a turnip is hard. I don't know if you've ever carved a turnip. I have. It is very, very hard. And they can get some big turnips, but it's still not as impressive as that 400-pound pumpkin that's
right.
going to win the county fair. Um, so yeah, those Celtic holidays again that
Hmm.
get Christianized and morphed
Hmm.
into a Christian holiday, and of course Halloween. Ironically, this is so funny, was not very popular in New England because of the Puritan
Hmm.
sensibilities and their beliefs about Halloween. And and of course now New England is the epicenter of Halloween in the world.
Yes.
And it's really bizarre how that's evolved. But my daughter Karen has found a new podcast. She's always turning me on to these new podcasts, and the one she's listening to now is Lore, Lore, and it's all about how about the Salem witch trials and the whole history of accusing people of practicing witchcraft.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting. And you mentioned the Catholic Church, and it talks about the different takes without getting into a lot of detail between the Catholics and the Protestants. And um, people, and this goes back to, I think, native peoples all over the world, believe there were spirits in everything. And the
Mhm.
Catholic Church sort of uh, was of the same mind. And then you get the Protestants that don't believe in purgatory, and they don't, there's not spirits and everything. And then where are the voices coming from? And it must be witchcraft. And it's a really, really interesting thing. Of course, like I've said many times, Michelle, you go back to history before Prozac and history after Prozac,
Exactly.
and that made
Mhm.
a whole lot of difference in how things were interpreted. But now Halloween is almost as big as Christmas in the industry that it is. It's like a
Mhm.
multi-billion-dollar industry with the decorations
Deb,
and the candy.
a, a quarter of all the candy bought in the United States is bought for Halloween. And if you take the rest of that leftover, little more than a quarter is bought for Valentine's Day. So if you think about a quarter of our nation's candy consumption comes with Halloween, just Halloween.
Isn't that funny? I
It
can
is.
remember, as a kid, I lived out in the country, so we had to drive couldn't walk to trick or treat. We'd have to, mom and daddy would drive us. And I can remember, getting my little sack of candy. You'd go to the grannies and some of the cousins and aunts and uncles and the old neighbors, and getting my little sack of candy and picking out all those good little Reese cups and Tootsie Rolls, and yeah, if you were
Mhm.
lucky enough to get a little Snickers bar or something. And when I was probably too old to go trick or treating, but I was the oldest of the grandkids, and so we all go trick or treating, and we decide to go down to Granny's best friend's house, and they lived out in the woods, and they did. I guess they never got trick or treaters at all, and they were just so blown away to get us that we got old, like 2 or 3 day old bananas and chestnuts.
You know,
But that's the most memorable for all of us. And
mhm.
the other most memorable is when we walked in at Granny's and there sat Colonel Sanders, and we're like, who in the heck is that? Well, it was Granny, and she went trick or treating with us, and she couldn't speak because she couldn't disguise her voice. And she was 70 something then. So we go in, we take her in with us, or we just go to her niece's house with us, and she just walks in and sits down in the living room, and she's got pants and a cane and a man's overcoat, and that's Colonel Sanders. And they were just going nuts trying to figure out who it was. And finally, she started laughing so hard, and they recognized her laugh, and they were just couldn't believe she was out trick or treating with us. Oh gosh.
you know, I didn't grow up in the country, but I grew up outside of town. And there were several houses in our neighborhood, and we would trick or treat at our neighbors. But then we would get in the car to be driven to our grandparents, both sets of
Yeah.
grandparents' houses. And then, if we were lucky, we would be able to go in Galesburg, my hometown in Michigan, and we would be able to pick, like, one dad mom and dad would say pick a street, and we get to walk up one or other side of like the main street in town. And if we got to go to town to trick or treat, we really thought we were really high roller.
Oh
We were
yeah.
living high. We were in, living high on the hog. And we would go home and have, you know uh, we'd get like a small 13-gallon trash bag, and we would have like half of a 13-gallon trash bag full of candy. And my brother and I would sit and I would organize and put all my Reese's together, all my Snickers, all my Kit Kats, put everything together. My brother would just dump his out and look, and then we would start the trading game. Well, I don't like these, but I like those that you have. And so we would start the bartering and trading game. And then it was, how could you hide your candy?
Oh
Because
gosh.
we would steal from each other. And finally my mom would have to intervene, take my bag, take my brother's bag, and she'd say, now it's mine to divvy out, and you'll get it when I say you can have it. So we learned that we had to be good. And my mother would say, you better be good at Halloween, because if you're not, and Santa Claus knows that you're naughty at Halloween, you're definitely not getting anything for Christmas. So that was the threat to keep us in line at Halloween and not fight over candy. Um, but it's interesting because Kansas has a community that has one of the oldest trick or treating and
Mhm.
Halloween parade traditions in the country.
Hiawatha. Yes, the same Hiawatha that has the Davis Memorial, one of my favorite graveyards. The parade in Hiawatha started in 1914, and that makes it the oldest Halloween parade in the nation. And it's just a hoot. And I was just looking. I think I've got I printed something so I could make sure to tell you um, Halloween frolic. Um, so there is no parade entry fee. Good thing. Everyone is welcome to participate. And if you go to the Hiawatha Chamber of Commerce, they will give you an entry form and you can be a part of that incredible Halloween tradition in Kansas. So, isn't that pretty cool?
Well, Deb, there is one other community in Kansas, in Southeast Kansas, that has a phenomenal Halloween tradition. And it's actually the most family friendly, but it is the largest community Halloween celebration. And that is none other than Nia Walla in Independence. So this year, Nia Walla will begin on October 22nd and it runs through the 30th. And they have everything from an amazing parade, costume competitions. They have so many events. You need their website to learn about them all. And having worked at Little House on the Prairie Museum, I've participated in the Nia Walla Parade, dressed as Caroline Ingalls and walked in the parade to represent the museum. But what a fun time! Nia Walla with the street festival and the food and the carnival rides and the parade and all the activities. So if you're looking for some Halloween fun, you need to get on down to Nia Walla in Independence, and you'll learn all about the history of their community and how they celebrate Halloween and do it Kansas style.
My friend Tony Boyles is from Independence. So, um, Tony, a lot of times she and her sisters would get together for Neowalla. They'd all go back home for
Hmm.
Neowalla. And so I don't know if Tony's going this year or not, but Tony, if you're going, you can report back to us, send us some pictures and give us a report on what it was like this year. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org. Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That's brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
Welcome back. And yeah, that's a mama bear and her babies behind me. And you may not encounter that too often in Kansas, but you used to. And how about the bears behind you, Michelle?
Well, Deb, I love animals. So I decided a collage of bears was appropriate. Many different kinds of bears on the move. And I like the one over my left shoulder. It's lying back. It looks like it's just kind of chilling out, getting ready to hibernate, perhaps.
It does. I was bicycling on the Mickelson Trail up in around Custer, South Dakota a few years ago. And I was, the grade is a lot higher than, because it's an old railroad track, than the fields that are down below it. So I stopped. There's something orange sitting there eating corn. And I stopped and I watched it for a while. And I thought, what is that? So I sat bolt upright in bed that night. When I finally put it together, it was a bear. It was a small bear. So
Ooh.
I go to the Wind River caves the next day, and the park rangers there, I was telling them, and they said, yeah, a brown bear can be any color. And they showed me all the colors. They can be seriously any color of the rainbow, a brown bear can assume. But orange is actually kind of common, the cinnamon or orange. This one was orange. So they said, but we don't have them here. And I'm like, well, nobody's told them, so. And then it terrified me because I realized this bear was small enough. There may have been a mama bear nearby. There probably was. And here I was, just snack-a-doodle trail. I don't think I biked the trail again after that. So,
I don't blame you.
And just like those bears, I didn't know they weren't supposed to be there. There's some bears that wander through Kansas every now and then that don't know that they're not supposed to be here. Well, maybe after a while they are supposed to be here. Let's take a look at this. American black bears were once common in Kansas, especially in the eastern parts of the state, according to Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. But they were gone by the late 1800s. Black bears are found in nearby states. They occur in parts of Missouri and Oklahoma near southeast Kansas, and they live in New Mexico and Colorado, not far from southwest Kansas. Grizzly bears once lived in Kansas, but they too were gone by the early 1800s, and there have been no verified sightings of these animals in modern times. Today, a transient black bear will sporadically appear in the southeast or southwest corner of the state, but there's no evidence of an established wild population living in Kansas. The few confirmed black bear sightings are typically of young males wandering into Kansas from another state. For a few years in the early 2000s, an American black bear was documented in Morton County in southwestern Kansas each spring. It was reportedly fond of feasting on spring wheat and may have come from Colorado or New Mexico. In June 2015, a juvenile bear was seen near Weir and in Galena in Cherokee County. It may have wandered into Kansas from Missouri, Arkansas, or northeast Oklahoma. Kansas does not have a hunting season for bears, and they may not be killed without reason. Landowners are permitted to destroy wildlife, including bears, found in or near buildings on their premises or when destroying property. However, reasonable efforts must be made to alleviate the problem before killing the animal. If you think you've seen a bear and have a photograph, video, tracks, or other evidence that you believe will substantiate your sighting, contact the Wildlife and Parks Fur Bearer Biologist at Poria Research Center and Survey Office, and don't forget to share a picture with us here at Around Kansas, too. Some folks believe it is just a matter of time before a wild population of black bears is reestablished in Kansas.
Howdy, I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now. Council Grove has a rich history, as deep as the prairie tallgrass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites, or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Welcome to Dodge City. The family that plays poker together stays together. Yeah, there's Noelle and Pris and Tiny sitting down with Doc. And like so many people love to come to Dodge and just sit down and play a hand with Doc. And it's probably a good thing Doc is cast in bronze now, because he's probably a lot safer to play poker with than he was back in the day.
Well, definitely, because you could very well end up where I am in Dodge City, and that is Boot Hill Cemetery. Whether Doc used a pistol or a knife, you never knew which end of Doc Holliday you were going to get when you were at the card table with him.
That's certainly right. So Boot Hill Museum, of course, is the premier historic site in Dodge City. They have done some remodeling. If you have not been in, you will be blown away by this museum. Michelle, it is so cool. One of the coolest things they have these talking portraits on the wall. So you've got Wyatt and Bat Masterson, and I'm sorry, I forget who the other two are, and their portraits start talking, and they talk to each other. And it's, oh my God, it is so cool. And then you have people like, you have a Harvey girl who looks up and starts talking to you and telling her story. And who else? But there are all these interactive exhibits, and oh my gosh, it's fantastic. You've still got all the—
No Big Nose Kate? No Big Nose Kate?
You know, there might be a Big Nose Kate.
There better be a Big Nose Kate.
There is a saloon girl that is talking to you. I can't remember now because it's been like more than an hour. If it's Big Nose Kate that's talking to you or not, but there is a saloon girl that is telling her story. It's awesome. It is so, so good. And you have these great effects with talking about the fire that swept through Dodge City, talking about the blizzards that swept through. The Longhorn exhibit is incredible. It's just, oh, it's a fantastic museum, just fantastic. It was great, and now it's incredible.
You know, Deb, I had the fantastic opportunity to be there when Bill Curtis was inducted into the Kansas Cowboy Hall of Fame there. And we were there. Our good friend Brett was there, of course. And I actually was dressed in my best 1870s attire. And so we spent the day in Dodge. Bill was inducted into, as I said, the Kansas Cowboy Hall of Fame. And I was made an honorary deputy marshal of Dodge City. And I'm sure our good buddy Brett regretted that, because I immediately said, not only do I want my badge, where's my gun? And he laughed and said, no, I'm not giving you a firearm. But we had a fantastic time, and it was just wonderful. And the Kansas Cowboy Hall of Fame, I know every year has induction ceremonies.
So November 13th, among the honorees will be our dear friend Michael Grauer, and he will be inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame in the historian category. And I'm so tickled. And he is really tickled. And coming from his home state, that means quite a lot to him. He is down at the Cowboy Hall of Fame, the Western Heritage and Cowboy Hall of Fame Museum in Oklahoma City, and doing a bang-up job there. He is the McCausland Chair of something or other, really cool. And he's just incredibly deserving, and we're so proud of him. And I wish I could be there. I have right now plans to be in Santa Fe and Las Vegas, New Mexico for Santa Fe Trail events. And that's going to be awesome. But man, if I could clone myself and be in two places at once, I would sure be there when Michael gets inducted, because that's a heck of a party, and some other really cool people being honored, and people who've been honored in the past, like our friend Jim Gray, Jim Hoy, Bob Haywood, just some folks who've contributed so much to Kansas history and the history of the West. So any day is a good day to go to Dodge, but if you could get there for that event, that would be really, really special.
I absolutely love going to Dodge, being able to go to Boot Hill to the museum, and then to Front Street, and to walk through the buildings, especially when they have their volunteers and their folks there on staff who are interpreting history. I have a great deal of fun. They do go ahead and they have some gunfights at different times of the day. I believe the Saloon Girls do, they do a can-can show. You can belly up to the bar and get a sarsaparilla and watch a can-can show. And it really is a lot of fun for the family. And I've seen changes in the museum over the years. And of course, I haven't been recently, but I had been after they had done a round of changes and additions. And it really is a phenomenal museum. You look at the building and you look at the area and think, this can't be a very big museum. But boy, once you get inside there and you start moving around the hallways and in the little nooks and crannies, and they've used all these spaces so creatively. And I think one of my favorite things, though, is the area that is dedicated to actually the movie Dodge City, with none other than Errol Flynn and the only fairly recently departed Olivia de Havilland, Dame Olivia. I love that section. And then they have some materials related to the premiere of the film that took place in Dodge City. And I love the photos of the stars of the film that were on the special train that brought them in. And it was really wonderful. That was really one of my favorite areas. And then of course they have a great section, they have a great section where they talk about Dodge City, of course, in film and television, and you can't talk about it without Gunsmoke.
Sure.
And so they have their Gunsmoke memorabilia and the items there. So it's really fantastic. They have done a phenomenal job. And they're very good at advertising and marketing all over Kansas and down into Oklahoma. You start seeing billboards for Dodge City a good way off. So it gets that idea in your mind that you've got to get into Dodge, not out of Dodge.
So the day that I made the picture behind me, it was so cute because I was down there for some event. They've had a lot of events over the past year. I think this may have been the Cattle Trail meeting when I was there. And so Noelle and the kids, we went out to supper, and afterwards I said, come on, let's go see Wyatt Earp. And Miss Priss is, bebopping along, and where are we going, Grandmama? And Tiny's like, Grandmama said we're going to see Wyatt Earp, and so we walk up to the big Wyatt Earp sculpture, which is, larger than life and pretty incredible. And oh my God, the kids loved it. They just loved it. And they loved sitting down here. And there's actually a train engine right here, real close to dock, that the kids can climb on and explore. And they really enjoyed that. But if you ever get a chance to do the trolley tour that they do from here, it's really good too. It takes you through the feed yards. It shows you the beef industry in Dodge that Dodge is built on, of course. And that's really interesting. And one day when I did the trolley, there were folks from California, I think Michigan, Texas, just all over the country. And still thousands of trucks go in and out of Dodge each day,
Hmm.
carrying cattle or meat. And it's an incredible education to go there. I know that you can really get a good steak in Dodge City. I can tell you that.
Yes, you can. When I was there with Bill and he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame there, we were outside in Boot Hill and taking some photographs, and it was a pretty windy day. And someone remarked about the smell, and Bill, of course, being involved in the cattle industry himself, he said, "Smells like
Smells like
money."
money.
So, and really it is. You know, when you do, as you start getting closer to Dodge, you do start to smell, there is that particular aroma of the feedlot, but and also if there are processing plants, there's a particular smell to them. But it's the lifeblood, it's the money, and that's why Dodge is there. That's the reason for its birth and its rapid growth that it saw in the 1870s and 80s with the cattle trade, and it continues to this day. So yeah, definitely you can get into Dodge, get yourself a great steak, visit the Boot Hill Museum. If you do go in there, tell Brett that Deb and Michelle sent you, and make sure that you don't carry your firearms because it's strictly prohibited when you're on Front Street.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, time to get into Dodge and time to let you go. So I'm Deb,
And I'm Michelle,
and we'll see you somewhere around
around
Kansas.
Kansas.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.